Welcome, dear listener, to JadeFox Tales, where ancient myths become the dreams into which you softly descend. I'm most grateful for your company this evening and for the quiet moment you have chosen to spend here. Tonight, we journey to the quiet rivers of old Japan, where the waters flow softly between shaded banks, and where a curious spirit known as the Kappa is said to dwell beneath the surface. It is a tale of caution, of quiet wit, and of the unexpected encounters that may arise when the human world meets the unseen. For in these old stories, not all spirits are cruel, nor are they always kind, and those who meet them must rely upon patience, awareness, and a measure of gentle understanding. You need not follow each word too closely. Should your thoughts begin to wander, you may let them do so. And if sleep should find you before the tale has reached its end, you may welcome it without concern. The story will continue, whether heard or not. As the river moves steadily on through night and day alike. Before we begin, let us allow the day to fall gently away. Take a slow breath in and let it go again, unhurried. There is no need to guide the breath, only to notice its quiet rhythm. The world beyond this moment may wait. For now, there is nowhere you must be, and nothing that requires your attention. And so, in this quiet interval, we turn gently towards tonight's tale, a story of a river spirit and of the quiet meeting between the known and the unknown. And now, dear listener, let the body rest, let the mind grow still, and allow yourself to drift as the story begins. In the rural countryside of old Japan, where rice fields stretch like green silk beneath the sun, and rivers wound their patient way towards the sea, there stood a modest village nestled close to a broad and gentle stream. The villagers were simple folk, farmers, fishermen, and craftsmen who rose with the dawn and rested with the fading of the light. Yet, though their days were governed by toil and the turning of the seasons, they spoke often of a presence within the river. For generations, stories had passed quietly from elder to child, tales of the Kappa, a curious being said to dwell in the water's depths. Some described it as mischievous, others as dangerous, yet all agreed upon one truth: the river was not empty. Among the villagers lived an elderly farmer named Haruto, a man of calm disposition and steady habits. His fields bordered the riverbank, and each evening, after tending to his crops, he would sit upon a smooth stone and watch the current glide by. Like many others, Haruto did not fear the old stories. He believed that all creatures, whether seen or unseen, had their own ways and reasons. One evening, as twilight cast violent hues upon the water, Haruto noticed a curious ripple near the reeds. It was not the playful flick of a fish, nor the drifting movement of floating leaves. It was deliberate, watching. From the shadows, two luminous eyes blinked. A small green figure rose slowly from the water's edge. Moss-covered skin, webbed hands, and atop its head a shallow dish filled with shimmering river water. Haruto did not cry out. He did not flee. Instead, he bowed politely. "Good evening," he said softly, as one might greet a passing traveler. The creature tilted its head, surprised. For the first time in many years, a human had not responded with fear. The river flowed on, whispering secrets to those patient enough to listen. And thus, dear listener, began the curious acquaintance between a humble farmer and the spirit of the river, an encounter that would teach a lesson of respect, wisdom, and a delicate balance between mankind and the unseen world. The twilight deepened, and the rivers reflected the first trembling stars, as though the heavens themselves had descended into its current. The small green figure remained half submerged near the reeds, its wide eyes fixed upon the elderly farmer who had dared to greet it without trembling. The Kappa was accustomed to shrieks and stones, to hurried footsteps retreating along the bank. Yet this man, Harito, sat calmly upon his smooth rock, hands folded within his sleeves, posture composed as if awaiting a guest. The creature blinked once, twice, and then, with cautious curiosity, it rose fully from the water. Moonlight revealed its mossy skin, webbed fingers, and the curious shallow pole atop its head, within which river water shimmered like liquid crystal. Haruto inclined his head once more. It is said, he began gently, that those who dwell in the river deserve the same respect as those who dwell upon the land. The Kappa tilted its head, studying him. It had heard of such customs long ago, for river spirits value politeness above nearly all else. Bound by ancient rules, it understood that a bow must be returned, and so cautiously the Kappa bowed. In that simple motion, the water within the dish upon its head tipped forward and spilled onto the grass at its feet. Instantly the creature swayed, its strength, drawn from the sacred water it carried, diminished as a shallow bowl emptied. It stumbled slightly, clutching at the reeds for balance. Haruto rose without haste, rather than mock or seize advantage. He stepped forward, cupped his weather hands into the river, and carefully refilled the hollow atop the creature's head. The water shimmered once more beneath the moonlight. The Kappa straightened, vitality restored, yet something in its expression had changed. Surprise had given way to contemplation. No human had ever aided it so willingly. "You are unusual," the creature said at last, its voice a soft, watery murmur that seemed to ripple through the reeds. Haruto smiled faintly. Kindness given returns in its own season. The river flowed quietly between them, no longer dividing mortal and spirit, but binding them in shared understanding. In the nights that followed the Kappa return, sometimes it spoke of the deeper currents and hidden spring beneath the earth. Sometimes it warned of shifts banking and rising waters that might threaten the rice fields. Haruto listened, and in turn he shared stories of harvest and changing winds. An unlikely friendship formed, not born of fear nor of domination, but of mutual respect. Yet the villagers, unaware of the quiet accord by the river, continued to whisper of danger. They spoke of livestock startled near the banks, of children warned to keep their distance. Rumor, like an unchecked current, began to swell. And so, dear listener, though harmony had begun to bloom between farmer and spirit, the world beyond the reeds had yet to understand. The river, patient as ever, flowed onward, knowing that true balance is often tested before it is accepted. Autumn approached with deliberate grace. The rice fields, once a tender green, deepened toward gold. Dragonflies skimmed the surface of the river like fleeting thoughts, and the evening carried a faint coolness that whispered of seasons turning. Yet beneath this outward calm, a quiet tension stirred. For rumors, though softened, had not entirely faded. There remained among the villagers a certain young fisherman named Daichi, whose temperament burned hotter than reason. He had long resented the old tales of river spirits, deeming them foolish superstition, and more than that, he mistrusted what he did not command. It was Daichi who first declared openly, "If a Kappa truly dwells in the waters, it must be driven away. No unseen creature should hold sway over the fortunes of men." Such words, once spoken boldly, find eager ears among the uncertain. That same week, the sky darkened with uncommon severity. The winds arrived first, not playful breezes, but long sustained currents that bent the reeds and sent ripples racing upstream. The scent of rain grew sharp and metallic. Haruto stood again at the riverbank as dusk gathered. From the water's surface, the Kappa rose swiftly, urgency unmistakable. The mountains release more than rain, it said. A great surge comes, greater than before. Haruto's brow furrowed. How great. The Kappa's webbed fingers tightened against the stone, great enough to sweep the lower paddies, great enough to break the wooden bridge. Haruto inhaled slowly. The villagers must be warned at once. But when he returned to the village square and relayed the warning, Daichi laughed openly. Another whisper from your invisible companion, he scoffed. The sky darkens every autumn. Rivers swell each year. We cannot leap at its shadows. Others hesitated. They remembered the previous flood that had been averted, yet pride and doubt contended within them. Reinforce the banks again, Haruto urged gently. It costs us little compared to what may be lost. Reluctantly, some agreed, others did not. Daichi and his companions instead devised another plan. If this spirit weakens when it bows, Daichi murmured to them, recalling old tales, then we shall trick it, capture it, and rid ourselves of it entirely. Thus does arrogance mistake cleverness for wisdom. That night, beneath the cloak of gathering storm clouds, Daichi and 2 others concealed themselves near the river bend where the reeds grew thickest. They carried ropes and weighted nets, whispering among themselves as wind tugged at their garments. Haruto, unaware of their scheme, sat upon his usual stone. The Kappa surfaced, water trembling around it. The surge comes sooner than expected, it said quietly. Thunder rolled distantly. Haruto rose. We must act now. At that moment, Daichi sprang from his concealment. Bow, river creature, he shouted mockingly. The Kappa turned, startled. Bound by ancient custom, it instinctively inclined its head, and and as it did, the water within the shallow dish spilled forward. Instantly, the ropes flew. The weakened creature stumbled and tangled in net and cord. Haruto cried out in alarm, "Stop this foolishness!" But the young man, emboldened, tightened their hold. The Kappa struggled faintly, strength diminished without the sustaining water, and then the storm broke. Rain fell, not in drops, but in sheets. The river, already swollen from distant mountain torrents, surged with sudden ferocity. The current roared, striking the banks with violent insistence. The very ground trembled. Daichi's triumph faltered as water rushed over his boots. The reinforced banks, incomplete this time, began to buckle. Wood splintered, stone shifted, and in the span of heartbeats, the river spilled beyond its confines. Haruto rushed forward despite the rising water. "Release it," he commanded. But panic had seized the young man. The current struck them from the side, knocking one into the churning water. He vanished briefly beneath the surface. Daichi reached for him, only to lose his footing as well. In that terrible moment, fear replaced arrogance. Haruto acted without hesitation. He cut the ropes binding the Kappa. Though weakened, the creature's eye flashed with fierce resolve. Crawling toward the river's edge, it plunged its head into the rushing water, refilling the sacred hollow. Strength returned like lightning through its form, with a cry that echoed like the rush of waterfalls. The Kappa leapt into the torrent. What followed was no simple struggle. The creature swam against the violent surge, webbed limbs cutting through chaos. It seized the submerged villager and thrust him towards shallower ground. It circled again, pulling Daichi from a whirlpool that had begun to form near the broken bank. The storm raged, but the Kappa did not retreat. For long minutes that felt like hours, it guided debris away from the paddies, redirected fallen branches, and anchored itself against a collapsing section of bank long enough for villagers to reinforce it anew. At last, the fierce surge passed. The river, though still swollen, began slowly to subside. Dawn revealed devastation narrowly avoided. The lower fields stood soaked but not destroyed. The wooden bridge, though damaged, remained standing, and upon the muddy bank lay Daichi, coughing river water from his lungs. He rose slowly. Before him stood the Kappa, weary, mud-streaked, yet upright. For a long moment, no words were spoken. Then, trembling, Daichi bowed deeply. The Kappa regarded him carefully and returned to bow, though this time cautiously preserving the water within its crown. I was wrong, Daichi said hoarsely. Hurried to approach, relief softening his features. The river teaches, he murmured, if we are willing to listen. The other villagers, witnessing what had transpired, felt shame mingle with gratitude. Fear had nearly cost them their protector. As the morning sun broke through thinning clouds, casting pale gold upon the flooded banks, an unspoken understanding settled over the gathered villagers. Daichi stepped forward once more. We cannot command the river, he said quietly, but we can respect it. He returned to the Kappa. If you will remain, we will guard the waters as you do. The Kappa's luminous eyes shifted to Haruto. You trust them? It asked softly. Haruto nodded. They have seen what arrogance brings and what mercy restores. The creature considered. Then, with measured grace, it placed one webbed hand upon the water's surface. The river seemed to shimmer faintly, as though acknowledging a covenant renewed. So long as respect endures, the Kappa said, so shall I. In the weeks that followed the great storm, the river returned to its measured voice. Where once it had roared with unchecked fury, it now moved with tempered strength, gliding between its bank as though mindful of the promise that had been spoken upon its shores. The villagers labored diligently to repair what had been weakened. The bridge beams were reinforced, the banks were strengthened with stone and woven reed, and the rice fields were carefully tended back to health. Yet something less visible, though far more significant, had also been restored: trust. Daichi, once quick of temper and doubtful of unseen things, became among the most vigilant guardians of the riverbank. He rose before dawn to inspect the water's edge and ensured that no reviews nor careless disturbed its flow. When children wandered too near the deeper currents, he no longer frightened them with exaggerated warnings, but instead spoke gently of balance and respect. Vowed to the river, he would tell them quite seriousness, for it sustains more than we can see. The children obeyed, giggling at first, but over time they grew solemn in their gestures, and sometimes, though not always, the surface of the water would ripple in reply. One evening, beneath a sky brushed with amber and fading rose, Haruto returned to his familiar stone by the river's bend. Age had settled more heavily upon him in recent days. The storm, though survived, had demanded strength from all, and he felt within his bones the steady reminder that seasons turn for men as surely as they do for fields. The river lay calm, reflecting the twilight like polished silk. After a time, the Kappa emerged once more. Its moss-hued skin glistened faintly. The shallow crown upon its head shimmered with clear water undisturbed. "You are tired," the Kappa observed quietly. Haruto smiled. "I am merely ripening as rice does." The creature settled beside him, webbed hands resting upon the damp earth. "The village changes," it said. "They bow now without mockery." "They have learned," Haruto replied, though the lesson was stern. The Kappa studied the slow-moving current. "You knew they would." Haruto considered this carefully. "No," he said at last. "I hoped they might." The silence passed between them, not empty, but full, like the pause between steady heartbeats. You have walked long upon the land, the Kappa said. Soon another will sit upon this stone. Herodotus' gaze softened. Yes, that is the way of things. He turned towards the creature. Will you remain? The Kappa's luminous eyes reflected the fading sky. So long as the river is respected, so long as humility flows within it, I shall remain. Herodo inclined his head one final time. Then I leave the river in good company. The evening breeze stirred the reeds. When Herodo rose to return home, he did so slowly, though not with sadness. He paused once at the crest of the path and looked back. The Kappa had already slipped beneath the surface, yet the river shimmered as though in farewell. Winter came softly that year. Frost silvered the fields, and thin veils of ice from along the river quietest edges. The villagers moved with deliberate care, mindful of what lay beneath the frozen surface. Herodo did not see another spring. He passed from this world as gently as a leaf surrendering to autumn wind. The village mourned him deeply. They spoke of his patience, his steadiness, and the wisdom that had preserved them not once, but many times. Daichi, standing by the river bank after the funeral rites, bowed low, not only to the water, but to memory itself. We will not forget, he murmured. The river flowed on. Years unfolded. Children grew into parents, parents into elders. The story of the storm was told not as a tale of terror, but as a lesson in humility. They spoke of how arrogance nearly cost them their fields. They spoke of how mercy restored what fear threatened to destroy. They spoke of the river spirit who guarded the waters, not as a monster, but as a steward. In time, a small stone marker was placed near the bend where Herodo had once sat. It bore no grand inscription, only a simple carving of flowing water and a shallow circle, the symbol of the Kappa's crown. Travelers passing through the countryside of Japan would sometimes ask about it, and the villagers would reply, "It reminds us that the river listens." On a certain evening, especially when twilight deepens into that tender hour between light and shadow, the surface of the water still stares without wind. Fishermen returning home have occasionally glimpsed a small shape moving gracefully beneath the moon's reflection. Children practicing their vows beside the reeds sometimes hear a faint ripple in answer, and when storms gather in distant mountains, the river no longer surprises the village. Warning comes subtle, a shift in current, a tremor in reeds, and preparations are made with calm unity. Whether the Kappa remains as guardian, or whether the spirit of balance itself has simply taken root within human hearts, none can say with certainty. But this is known: the river is not conquered, it is honored, and in honoring it, the people found harmony not only with the waters, but with themselves.